Welcome to Inside Torker, the series where we talk about all things Torker history and what's going on today. In today's episode, we're talking to Alan Woods, our UK distributor since 1984. And we're going to be talking about a bike that's very important to not only his history, but to Torker's history. So call a friend, get a snack and something to drink, and we'll show you what's behind the curtain. All right, so Alan, it's great to have you here today. You're one of the oldest, and I don't mean that in an age way, but one of the longest lasting Torker distributors. I think you're the only original Torker distributor that is still a part of Torker today. But today we're here to talk about one of the unicorns of Torker, a piece of history that never really made it out in the general public. There's not a lot of information about it, but you had the forethought to keep some of the stuff. You were there when it happened, and just wanted to talk to you today about the Targa.
Okay, go for it. Ask me whatever you. I'll do my best to answer.
So, as a Torker historian, pseudo historian, and I work with the company and try to make sure that we, honor the past as much as possible. I've done quite a bit of research on it, but there's really not a whole lot out there, and most of that has come from you, or it's come from something that you've been involved in. One of those things I have a picture of here. I'm sure you're very familiar with that. So really, most of the knowledge is just coming from what you had to do with. So what do you remember about the Targa? It came out in 84, correct? Or didn't come out, but was made in 84.
Yeah. Well, because that was the last year that they were in business. So back then we used to communicate by fax. So we didn't actually have a fax machine. We used to use like a third party. They were too expensive for a little company like us to be able to have. So we would use a third party service. So I think they would get faxed and then a company would kind of print them out, and they were on really thin like paper. So we would get the fax from like a bureau, because we did buy a fax machine later in the later 80s, but this was after Torker. So we would get faxes from, our communication was always either directly with Steve Johnson or with Mori, Mori Bicycle Company, who were the company that the agent that Steve used in the Far East, in Japan. In fact, these are the people that put the running gear together for the 280 and 280X models. That's another story in itself. So yeah, the timeline is. I'll probably better start. I'll start at the auction. So,
and when was the auction? That was
February 1985.
Awesome.
I'll let you verify that, but I'm pretty sure it was.
I think that's right.
Myself and my father went out there. I may as well just backtrack ever so slightly. Sorry about the gaps here. I'm just trying to put it in, make it make more sense rather than it being chronological.
Yeah.
We heard from Graham Merry at Hot Wheels, who were the distributor for many brands over here, one of them being CW. And he told me, he called me, and we were really deep into Torker. We were distributors for Robinson and Torker. I won't go into all that story, origin story right now, but we were having problems with Robinson effectively. Everybody knows this. Chuck never had any money. He was amazing for spotting riders who all went on to do great things like Gary Ellis and Scott Clark and numerous others. But it was always frustrating because Chuck, we couldn't buy product. and this is before Robinson were absorbed by GT. So it was frustrating. And 1984 could have been was probably Torker's greatest year. You know, Tommy Bracken's on board, and then Mike Miranda. And, you know, I remember going there and him showing me prototypes of the hubs and the cranks and the Ultra Series stuff, you know, which you guys are, you know, doing that line now. And the Freestylist, you know, Robinson was never going to do a freestyle bike. Actually, they did later after we stopped doing it. But it just seemed like, you know, why are we continuing to, you know, butt our heads against a brick wall with Robinson when Torker's got like, they've, you know, what more do you need than, you know, Mike and Tommy, right?
Right.
And Richie Allison, you know. And again, I'm going off on a tangent, but then, you know, we had a freestyle team here, Terry Jenkins and Andy Irwin. And the clips are online, we had Channel 4 television bring all the pros over to the UK for a primetime TV BMX show.
Wow.
And this show aired every Wednesday at like prime time, and it was amazing. Mike came over for that, riding for Torker, and we had the two guys, Andy Irwin and Terry Jenkins, riding for us on Torker, and the freestyle thing exploded here, maybe bigger than in the US.
Yeah.
Like it was eclipsing racing. So I'm like, Steve, for God's sake, we need a bike. And, you know, then Andy and Terry did some input in drawings. And I know, you know, Steve came up with different prototypes and Martin Aparijo and, you know, the couple of different frames and the handlebars and everything. So I haven't got copies. You know, I didn't have the foresight to think about, oh, we'll keep copies of these designs and suggestions for Steve, because 40 odd years later, I'll be speaking to David and he'll want to know about this stuff.
Right.
So that's just some background into why we were like, you know, why are we still, you're busting our ass with our best riders on Robinson? Why don't we just go all in on Torker? So that's what we did. We moved myself was racing pro at the time, myself, some new riders, Tony Holland, who was a super fast expert and one of the stylish riders ever. In fact, this is a picture here of Tony on a 280X and a test for BMX Weekly magazine.
Very cool.
So we moved all the team over to Torker, and then Graham Merry called me and said, hey, they just gone into liquidation. What? Talk about timing.
Right.
I can't remember the guy's name, but there was a guy who was head of production in Fullerton, and he went to work for CW. So when he was at CW, this is how Graham knew. Graham called me. And then, of course, I come to ring Steve on a landline, of course. There were no cell phones them days. The line's dead. I'm like, oh, I can remember this moment. You know, that feeling in the pit of your stomach. We put all our eggs in this Torker basket.
Right.
And then I rang Bob Osborne of BMX Action magazine and told him that, hey, listen, you know, this thing with chapter 7 or chapter 11 and how it's going to be, you know, just to say, you know, we were interested in buying it. And then about a week after the first news, Steve called me and said, hey, listen, I'm so sorry. You know, I couldn't call you before that. It was a split decision. We didn't want to prejudice anything, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we were like, what are we going to do? So myself and my father went to the auction in Fullerton. I know exactly which motel that we slept in on Commonwealth Boulevard, right on the corner there. And I remember we didn't take a watch. So I don't know what time the auction was, like 9 a.m. And obviously we had the time difference and the jet lag. So we had to sleep with the curtains open. So we would wake up when it became light.
Yeah.
So yeah, went to the auction, and as has been recounted previously, bunch of people were there, Bob Medrano and Scott Brythout, and yeah, the who's who really of BMX, and it was a bit of a sad occasion. Anyway, our plan was to put a bid in for the brand and purchase stock. So anyway, from I think maybe Magoo's story, they're talking about how, what it went for. But I don't know, it was higher than what we wanted to pay. So I don't think it was this rumored amount of like $2,000, because, we spent way more than that on inventory.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
max was the low amount, like $2,000.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're probably right there. But I remember it being, we went there to do that, and we didn't. So it must have been, I wouldn't like to speculate, a figure. So anyhow, anywho, we were looking through it was all in lots, you know, um, I don't know, 100 Pro X frames or whatever it was. The frames were in the hundreds anyway, and a bunch of freestylist frames, white, with only made in white, without forks. And the reason they were without forks, they had this issue with the steerer not being welded correctly, and they used to come loose. So they pulled all the forks, I assume, out of the frame and fork kit
Right.
to be able to use as warranty. So we bought all those frames without forks, a 5-inch head tube, of course, so that that causes a headache
Right.
further down the line. And in there was a Targa frame. So I was
So
like,
there was just one Targa in
one.
there.
Yeah, I was like, holy. I literally like opened the box, and I'm like, I put it back in the box to make sure nobody else would see it.
And this is the one, right? The,
That's the one.
it was
Yeah.
white at the time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think in the photograph there that you have there, amazing that you've got that. The photograph that you have there, that might be the baby blue.
Okay.
It looks white in the photograph, but it was originally white, with, the standard factory decals on it. And yeah, I was like, I knew then how important a piece of history that was.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that this is the Targa frame. I'm like, this is that new frame that Steve was talking about. And then, looking back after February 1985, I was like literally like, oh yeah, reading about this fact, this is that frame. So, because I'd never seen a picture of it. So obviously putting two and two together, I mean, he isn't here now, sadly, to be able to ask, but it must have been that frame, because there was no other, and I think he actually described it, having a top tube without a seat tube gusset.
Yeah. And I know that there was the Targa. So just going off the dates, the Targa was done first, and then Craig Barks, I think it's referred to as an expert pro. Uh, his came the month after that. So
Oh, wow.
yeah. So just looking at the date stamps and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm. Wow. Okay. Well, no, that's interesting. And if you think about it, um, if you think about the way the freestylist, and later, Harrow as well, it has the parallel twin top tubes that move out for a standing platform. It's logical that the new Torker race frame would, have that, the narrow tubes, and just be welded around the seat tube. And yeah, I mean, I think it was just like 280X size, a 280X basically, without the seat tube gusset. And obviously this must have been a prototype, because I don't know how many still exist. It's a handful, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. So what I've seen just from doing a little bit of research is, first off, the top tube. Uh, People are saying that it's uh, 19.5 or 20. So it's which that would have been a pro size, in 85, correct?
So
Yeah, but the Pro X was only a 19.5.
Yeah. So I've seen a little bit of different, but majority of the time, I think that the 19.5 is the more realistic.
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's possible that they could have done two in 18.75, two in 19.5. They were only prototypes, so maybe they were for riders. But Mark Cox, who rode that bike for us and the one that's tested in the magazine, he was only maybe like 12 at the time. So it would have probably been,
That one marked there?
Yeah, it would have probably been an expert sized frame at that, an expert size frame back then. All these things mean different.
right.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, just a pro frame, great. That's the size of an expert XL frame.
Right. When Clint was riding for Torker, he was riding a 19-inch top tube. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, crazy. So yeah, then we had that. Matt rode it. That's probably 85, 86. We again, it's hard really to convey this. Obviously people that were there. But especially in the UK, by the time we got into 86, moving into 87, BMX just basically started to collapse. And because, we were a small country, if the business went down to 10% of what it was, that wasn't enough to sustain people in business. In the US, it was different because 10% of a country that's got 200 odd million people, yeah, that's still enough business to be able to, and how many tracks were in Southern California, even by the time we got to 86.
Right.
I won't want to say, but a lot.
exactly. Whenever I was a kid, so I grew up in the 90s, and in the 90s, I was in Southern California, and just within 30-minute radius, we had at least 10 really good tracks.
So
Yeah. So that was part of the thing with that, and I think so. We actually registered the. I think what we did, we actually registered the trade name here in the UK and in Europe.
Okay.
As a in case we needed to do something going forward. This is before the Torker 2 thing happened,
right.
which we didn't get involved with. So I think our idea was to see how we went with the inventory that we had. It didn't go that well because we still had my parents' old house. We still had frames in the loft there well into the mid 90s. So we were actually selling Pro X frame of fork kits in the box, probably 95 for like £150, like £200.
I bet you wish that you would have kept them in the box in the attic a little bit longer, huh?
Well, yeah, but it did transition us into, we did our first old school event here in 2000. And we still had some frames at that point that we built up into bikes. So it wasn't so bad. But the point I was trying to make was if that would have gone well, we already had the contact with Mori Bicycle, as I mentioned previously.
Yeah.
So we could have said to them, hey, for the UK and Europe, we want some bikes. We could have just made some 280X bikes if needed. Now, we did actually, I don't have a photograph of it. We did do some, and then we did the Magnum. We won't go too much into that, but that bike is something that people don't remember whether it was not sold that much in the US, but we did really well with that. And then we made I think it was called a Magnum 200 because that was $200. So
yeah.
that was priced to compete with the Diamondback Viper, or the 280X was priced to compete with the Silver Streak. And we actually made a sample bike with Skyway Tough wheels of the Magnum in white as a bike that we were going to produce going into 1986, 1987. But unfortunately, the market wasn't there to be able to make it happen. So that's another thing that we could have done. And then, the Torker 2 stuff started coming out, and I was like, I know there's people that like that stuff, but it wasn't Torker.
Right. So you're kind of at a good point now. You've actually kind of answered a little bit of kind of what I was thinking, because it's in the article about the Targa, which it wasn't referred to as the Targa here yet. I understand, but it was the project Torker XXXPERT. So I'm guessing that's probably before you realized that the intent was that it was going to be called the Targa. You started calling it the Targa a little bit later after that.
Well, from a historical point of view, it doesn't really work like that, does it? It's just weird. I think I think I started to look back at the faxes
Yeah.
and go, "Oh, wait a minute, this is the bike he said, "Oh, we've got a new platform coming out. We've had the Pro X, we've got the Freestylist. The next thing after the Freestylist will be this." And I just there's this frame with the this is the thing that Steve was talking about, and then it was only later, I don't mean like a decade later, but a few years later, that I was just looking through the stuff, because I kept all that stuff, which I still need to refine, but I do have it. And at that point, I was like, I'll just put two and two together. No way, this is the Targa.
Yeah.
And because we didn't plan on, I guess at that point, and that's the wording in that test in the magazine. This was all this and the other Magnum with the tough wheels. These were projects that we were trying to push forward to gauge the market to whether to go to Japan or to Taiwan to build some bikes for us here in Europe.
Yeah, which that actually makes a whole lot more sense now after reading the article, because it's saying that it's a prototype for 86, projected to come out in 86. So reading that, knowing that Torker went bankrupt, but now having the more context around it, that you were intending on continuing Torker as Torker, that really adds a lot more there to be it still was a prototype, and it was the prototype for what you wanted to continue with Torker. Is that right?
Yeah. It'd be kind of continuing what you guys are doing now, but in 1986.
Right.
Could you imagine start back then and where it would be now?
Well, yeah. I mean, the bike that you have behind you now, when we got to that aluminium stuff from SBS era, that stuff was pretty good, with Steve Veltman and Matt Hayden, and we actually sponsored a rider here on one of those bikes. And they were distributed by Ison, who is still one of our key sponsors for our Supercross race team nowadays. And they did talk back then at the time. So by the time it got into the SBS era, the stuff was good. And that's probably, they would have been, they'd be making carbon fiber frames now, wouldn't they?
Right. We'd have the most advanced carbon fiber frame ever.
Hey, maybe, when our Bill's mind works, right?
Exactly. So once you had the Targa frame, you've documented it pretty well over the years. You sold it in 2015, I believe, but while you had it, it went through several different stages, and I already showed what I thought was white, but that was actually the baby blue. But it did have the baby blue stage that was the second color, right? And then following that,
Yeah.
it went to kind of a reddish tomato red kind of color.
Yeah, it was a red and yellow fade, actually.
Yeah. Well, the one picture here, it's before the fade even. So there is an intermediate color.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So what I haven't been able to find is a picture of the red and yellow fade. I haven't been able to find any vintage pictures racing of it. After the sale, I've seen.
Oh, the pictures of the bike and that. I mean, it might have been in a magazine. Maybe this is something that we can, put a shout out for on the riders group, maybe.
Yeah. Try to track down a magazine that has the red and yellow with the black stickers.
Someone right. Yeah, I don't honestly. I remember. I mean, my own bike from then, from '86, was that kind of reddy orange, and it was I was racing motocross at the same time, alternating each weekend, and
Hey, sorry, my video just went out.
Oh, okay, go ahead. We'll start again. I know what I'm up to.
Well, go ahead and keep on talking because I'm still recording you.
Okay, all right,
yeah.
okay. Yeah, so what I think, David, that orangey red is, I was racing motocross at the time, and I had a 86 CR 125, and if you remember it was kind of that the frame was that orangey red color. We refer to it as red, but it was kind of orangey. So I built a replica of that bike into my Torker. So it had that orangey red frame, but it had a blue Cashimax seat and black handlebars. So it was all the same color as the CR 125. So that's probably, oh wow. So yeah, it's probably that's the color that we painted that. We painted the Targa, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Wow. So you've got that now.
What was that?
So you have that now, the Targa.
Oh, you notice that?
Wow. I didn't know. That's amazing.
Yeah. So.
Oh, wow. Oh, I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased.
So last year is about September 9th, I believe it was. There was somebody on one of the Torker BMX groups, Billy Smith, posted it. So, you had sold the frame in 2015. It kind of went around 2 or 3 different people in the UK, and then it came to the United States. So,
oh, really? No way.
So
it
just so happened that Billy lived an hour or so south of me, about hour south of Tulsa. So whenever he posted that, I sent him a message and just asked, if he'd be interested in selling it to me and working a deal and stuff. But he didn't see it, so I thought he was just blowing me off. Because whenever I first saw it, I was skeptical that he actually had it. I thought he might have been a scammer, but he was using the pictures that you used in 2014, and he wasn't posting his own pictures. So quite a few of us in the group were like, "You don't have that." So I messaged him just to kind of see what was going on, and like I said, I messaged. Month went by, still hadn't heard from him. So I was like, I had the feeling, I was like, I got to try one more time. It's still posted. People have called him out, and he still has it up. So maybe he really has it. And I just tried again on October 9th, and he's like, yeah, I have it. Sent me pictures. We talked. Very nice guy. So that's him there.
Oh, amazing.
Had the frame, forks, the headset that you had sold with it. It had Galindo bars
Yeah.
Which I'm not sure. Those weren't from the original sale that you did, right? Those are
No,
added on later.
we never had Galindo handlebars here, not at that time anyway.
Yeah.
I've got a story about Galindo handlebars and Mike Miranda though, but another time.
Yeah. So I met with him, and he was happy that it was coming home to Torker, and if anybody was going to get it, he's like, it's got to go to you guys. That's awesome. So wanted to surprise you.
I was like, huh?
Yeah, you just talked about the SBS Torker behind me, so that was a perfect setup to get your attention back there.
I was like, I couldn't see the down tube sticker. I'm like, oh, that definitely got those team issue stickers on there. Oh, rad.
So yeah, now we have it back. Torker has it. This bike is an awesome piece of your history. It's an awesome piece of Torker history of what could have been, and
the missing link.
Yeah, there from the research that I've seen with the other owners, there's 5 surviving, this being one of them, and then one that is broken. But there's also a lot of mix up between which one is the Craig Bark frame versus this one. So it's still kind of undetermined on exactly how many Targas are. I know one person in the UK has 2 of them at least. So confirmed there's 3.
Wow. Yeah. I am so pleased that that's there. I mean, I kept it all that time. And then really, apart from my race bikes, I was like, I'm not so bothered about having just more stuff,
Right.
and, someone else can enjoy it. And, now it's made its way back there. That is amazing. We're only temporary custodians of these things anyway, aren't we? Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So we hadn't built it up into a bike. We didn't have it on display. It was just sat in storage on a shelf.
Yep.
And it just seemed kind of sad. Even though I knew that it was, close, quite unique.
Yeah.
If there's only, there was maybe only, there can't have been double figures made. I wouldn't have thought. Yeah. So if it wasn't so unique, easy to identify, I suppose.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's not like it was the same bike, but it had a longer top tube. It could go under the radar, but the bike, it looks super cool.
Awesome. Well, Alan, it's been great talking to you. I'm happy we were able to talk about some of the stuff that was kind of missing, from the history. I'm glad that you're happy to be able to see your bike.
Over the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very cool to be able to have the spec sheet that you had on the original build that was in the magazine to be able to help build this also. So it's got a lot
I haven't even got that. I haven't even got that magazine.
You're going to have to find it.
Yeah. I remember, now that you've shown it me, I've gone, yeah. But if you'd have said that was in a magazine, I wouldn't have remembered. Obviously, it was all part of our strategy to, gauge interest and build the hype. So obviously, we went to the magazine. We must have gone to the magazine and said, hey, secret scoop on this prototype, and build it all like that, hoping to create interest. But sadly, the timing was, the timing wasn't right. But yeah, it does look awesome. And now it's at, what do? You could put that back to white, or it's kind of cool like it is, because
it is what it is. It has to stay this.
It's still probably blue and white underneath there.
Yeah. There's actually a few chips where you can still see the different layers of colors. So
there you go. It's 3-in-1.
Right. It'll stay like this for the rest of its life, and it's the most recognized of the Targas. And having it been yours, and that you had a hand in painting it and stickering it, and it's got to stay this way. So
My dad painted that, sprayed that by hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of reddy orange, like the other one, that would have been the same red that my Pro X is currently. But yeah, I'll have when I'm back, I'll have a look through storage and get those faxes out. I definitely didn't throw them away because I knew that they were of historical importance. And I'll just for posterity, I'll get them all scanned, everything I have,
Yeah.
with Torker reference or not, because you just to be able to share it and to put it down there for prosperity. And I know people love to be able to look at that stuff, and it might answer. There's definitely stuff in there about the freestylist as well. So yeah, there'll be good stuff in there for sure.
Awesome. Well, it's been great talking to you.
You too, and thanks again for all the hard work and attention to detail yourself and Bill have put into resurrecting the brand. It couldn't be with anybody more caring, and yeah, super excited to see what we've got coming for the future.
Yeah.
Be awesome to be able to share it with you soon. So,
Nice one.
bye, Alan.
Thanks, David.
It was so cool to get to talk to Alan about the Targa and clarify some of the history from what was in the magazine and what his intent was moving forward after Torker went bankrupt, and kind of his plans on what the Targa could have been going forward, even though it was just a prototype at the time. You guys got to see his reaction to it. Being behind me, you couldn't really get a good look at it. So let me grab the camera and I'll give you guys a little tour of it. All right, let's start off by taking a look at the frame and fork. First thing is probably going to stand out is that yellow and red fade paint job. Alan's dad did this in 1987 for one of the team riders, and they put on the black team issue decals. You take a look at the top tubes, you'll notice the top tubes are much closer together than on a traditional Torker. You see that gusset there is narrow. It doesn't have the round hole. And then coming up to the seat mast, there is no gusset. The top tubes are welded directly to the seat mast. Up front, it has the original headset that was pictured in the magazine. It has Glinda bars. It has new Amy dual grips. It has a Diacomp Tech 3 lever. We have an original Ultra 6 stem. The wheels by Hoagie's Wheels. We have Susie hubs and Araya 7X rims. These rims were originally on an 81 Torker that is now hanging in the National BMX Hall of Fame. We're going to look at the cranks. We have the Super Maxi cranks, and we have VP DX style pedals on it. Sprocket, old tough neck, seat post clamp is Tange. The seat and seat post is the Atlanta UL Ultralight combo. Got the MX 1000 brakes. The reissue of the Comp 3 tires. Something new, we have the new Torker cable guides. You get these at www.torkerracing.com. All right, so there it is, the Torker Targa, a bike built 45 years ago that we're still talking about today. An amazing piece of Torker's 50-year history in BMX. So in the comments below, let us know what frame does Torker make today that you think we'll be talking about in 45 or 50 years. Obviously, in the future, it probably won't be a video on YouTube. It'll probably just beam straight into our brains. But today, we're doing it on video, so you'll go down in the comments. Once you get done putting your comment in, make sure to grab your Torker and go out and make history today.